Let me tell you something that nobody in the technology industry wants to say out loud right now, not because it's a secret, not because the evidence is hidden, but because admitting it means acknowledging that one of the most important technological shifts of the last 2 decades has been quietly, patiently, and almost invisibly happening right under everyone's nose. And the people whose job it was to see it coming somehow managed to look away long enough to miss it completely. Here is what is actually happening in 2026, right now, not in some theoretical future, not in the optimistic projections of enthusiasts who have been saying the same thing for 15 years. Right now, in boardrooms across Europe, in government ministries in France and Germany, on the stage at the Consumer Electronics Show in Las Vegas, in the hands of millions of players who simply wanted to play their games without being told what hardware they were allowed to use, something has fundamentally changed. Something that, once it finishes changing, cannot be unchanged. The question that used to get people laughed out of corporate strategy meetings, do we actually still need Windows, is being answered in writing with real budget allocations and real migration timelines attached. And the answer that a growing and accelerating number of the world's most influential organizations is arriving at is the same answer that a global community of developers, engineers, and visionary idealists has been building toward for 35 years. The answer is Linux, but not the Linux you remember. Not the Linux of black screens and green text, of terminal commands that required a computer science degree to memorize, of the eternal joke about the year of the Linux desktop that never seemed to arrive because, honestly, for a long time it never did. Something has changed at a fundamental level, and if you haven't been paying close attention to what is happening in these specific months, in this specific year, what comes next in this video is going to surprise you in ways you genuinely did not expect. Start with the number that nobody saw coming. In March of 2026, Linux crossed 5.33% market share on the Steam gaming platform. Go ahead and let that sit for a moment, because the first instinct is to dismiss it. Windows 11 still commands 66.71% of Steam users, and Windows 10, a system Microsoft officially killed in October of 2025, still holds 27.79% of the platform, with millions of users quietly refusing to deal with the upgrade ultimatum Microsoft handed them. So why does 5.33% matter? Why is that a number worth talking about? Because in 2015, Linux gaming on Steam didn't even reach 1%. For an entire decade, it barely moved. The gaming industry had written Linux off so completely that it didn't even bother to mock it anymore. It was simply ignored, treated as a curiosity that served a tiny community of ideologically motivated users who had decided that their commitment to open source software was worth the sacrifice of their gaming library. And then Valve built the Steam Deck, and then everything changed. Linux gaming's share on Steam tripled from the moment the Steam Deck launched. Not slowly, not incrementally over years, but in a sustained and accelerating climb that transformed the platform from a niche hobby into something that the largest hardware manufacturers on Earth can no longer afford to dismiss. At CES 2026, Lenovo walked onto the stage and announced the Legion Go 2, not running Windows, not dual booting with Linux as the secondary option buried in a menu, running SteamOS, the Linux-based operating system that Valve built as the primary, default, and only operating system on a premium gaming device made by one of the largest personal computer companies in the world. The audience did not laugh, the audience applauded. That moment is more significant than any market share statistic because market share data is a lagging indicator. It tells you where things were 6 months ago. What the major hardware manufacturers are putting on their product roadmaps tells you exactly where the world is going. And what is on those roadmaps right now in 2026 would have been completely unthinkable 5 years ago. Valve is preparing a new Steam machine aimed at desktop users, a 4K capable gaming PC designed to sit under your television and compete directly with dedicated gaming consoles. Other manufacturers are following the trail that Lenovo blazed, building their own SteamOS powered devices. The hardware ecosystem that everyone said Linux gaming would never have, the mainstream manufacturer support, the commercial validation from companies moving billions of dollars, is being built right now at a pace almost nobody anticipated. The technology making all of this possible has a name, and that name is Proton. If you're not familiar with it, understand this clearly. Proton is the single most important piece of software in the history of Linux gaming, and it is arguably the most significant compatibility technology built anywhere in the industry in the last decade. Proton is a compatibility layer developed by Valve that allows games designed exclusively for Windows to run on Linux, without any modification from the game developer, without porting, without rewriting code, without waiting years for a Linux version that might never arrive. You buy a game built for Windows, and Proton translates it in real time, making it run on Linux as though it had always been there. Proton 9.0, released in early 2026, already supports more than 90% of Steam's top 1,000 games with platinum or gold ratings, meaning they run perfectly or with minor issues that do not affect gameplay in any meaningful way. ProtonDB, the community database that collects compatibility reports from real users across Steam's entire library, reports that 89% of the more than 150,000 games analyzed run on Linux through Proton. We are talking about top-tier titles: Cyberpunk 2077, Elden Ring, Baldur's Gate 3, games that represent the absolute pinnacle of modern game development, running with performance directly comparable to native Windows installations on equivalent hardware. And Proton 11, currently in public beta as of May 2026, pushes further still. Built on Wine 11 with NT-Sync kernel driver support, it moves parts of Windows' NT synchronization model directly into the Linux kernel, reducing CPU overhead and improving frame consistency across thousands of games. It introduces ARM64 builds, which signals clearly that Valve is already planning beyond current x86 gaming architecture toward the hardware of tomorrow. The question that defined Linux gaming for a decade, can Linux even run my games, has been retired. It has been replaced by a far more interesting question: what would you actually need to give up to live entirely without Windows? And for a gaming population that grows month by month, the honest answer is increasingly very little. But gaming is only one thread in a much larger and much more consequential story. The narrative of Linux in 2026 is not only about gamers and technology enthusiasts, it is about governments. It is about organizations managing hundreds of thousands of computers with IT budgets measured in billions of euros. It is about structural, institutional, and practically irreversible decisions being made right now by organizations that represent hundreds of millions of people and control economic activity at a scale that makes any consumer technology trend look trivial by comparison. Start with France. 68 million people. The French government has mandated that every ministry present a migration plan to Linux before autumn of 2026. Not a pilot program, not a voluntary initiative with optional participation. A legally enforceable mandate. 2.5 million workstations currently running Windows are scheduled for migration. The French National Gendarmerie has been running Linux since 2008, operating more than 100,000 workstations on it, saving 2 million euros per year in licensing costs alone. That is not a proof of concept anymore. That is a 15-year track record of operational success at massive scale. The German state of Schleswig-Holstein is committed to migrating 30,000 government workstations to Linux and LibreOffice. Denmark has launched a similar initiative. Switzerland passed legislation requiring that any software developed with public funding be published as open source code, and committed 231 million francs to building sovereign national cloud infrastructure. These decisions are being made by finance ministers and heads of state who looked at a spreadsheet, read a security briefing, and concluded that the era of paying a foreign corporation to control their nation's digital infrastructure has to end. And the word that keeps appearing in every one of these documents, in every corporate migration announcement, in every technology strategy published anywhere in the world in the first half of 2026, is sovereignty. Digital sovereignty. The idea that a nation, a company, or an individual should have genuine control over the technology they depend on every single day. That a government's operating system should not be a closed black box owned by a corporation in another country, subject to that corporation's pricing decisions, its update policies, its data collection practices, and its choices about what organizations can actually do with hardware they purchased with public money. Linux answers the sovereignty question in a way that no proprietary operating system can. The source code is public. Any organization can read every line of it, audit it independently, modify it for their specific needs, and verify that it does exactly what it claims to do. No hidden telemetry, no forced installation of unwanted features. Just transparent, auditable code, maintained by a global community that owes no favors to any corporation. Add to this the economic reality of 2026. Hardware prices have surged dramatically. DDR5 RAM climbed 171% year over year. GPU prices rose sharply. SSD costs increased, and in that environment, Windows 11's hardware requirements, the 240 to 400 million computers that Microsoft declared incompatible because they lack a specific security chip, stopped being a minor inconvenience and became a real economic barrier for hundreds of millions of people. Buying a new computer to run Windows 11 on perfectly functional hardware can mean spending 400, 500, or well over 1,000 euros in a market where every major component has experienced simultaneous inflation. Staying on Windows 10 after October 2025 means running a system without security updates, with every passing week widening the vulnerability window. Linux eliminates this equation entirely. Linux Mint runs faster on older hardware than Windows 11 runs on new machines. Enterprise tests from 2025 showed Linux outperforming Windows 11 by 19.5% in everyday productivity tasks on identical hardware. The financial logic of migrating is no longer simply ideological. It is arithmetically obvious. The software ecosystem argument, the definitive case for staying on Windows that held for 2 complete decades, has been eroding at a pace that nobody outside the Linux community had predicted. The browser argument disappeared first. Chrome, Firefox, and Brave all have full Linux support with complete feature parity. Then, the productivity argument followed. LibreOffice handles Microsoft Office formats with compatibility that makes daily file exchange seamless for the overwhelming majority of users and workflows. Then, the communication tools argument. Spotify, Discord, Telegram, Zoom, and Slack all maintain officially supported native Linux clients. DaVinci Resolve, the professional video editing suite used in major Hollywood productions, has run natively on Linux for years. The gap in design tools is closing rapidly as GIMP, Krita, and Inkscape mature into genuinely powerful creative applications that professional designers are using as primary tools. And then there is gaming, the last completely unassailable stronghold of Windows loyalty, the argument that ended Linux desktop debates without possibility of rebuttal for as long as anyone could remember. That wall is fracturing under the combined and cumulative weight of Proton, the Steam Deck hardware ecosystem, the Lenovo Legion Go 2, the upcoming Steam machine, and a native Linux-certified game library that grows every month without pause. More than 24,000 games are now verified or playable on Linux, including titles that would have been pure fantasy to even attempt on this platform 3 years ago. What makes this specific moment uniquely dangerous for the established order in a way that no previous wave of Linux enthusiasm ever was, and there have been many waves over 35 years, is that all the barriers that historically blocked the path have either fallen or shrunk to a scale that no longer stops ordinary users. Hardware compatibility has reached the point where user-friendly distributions install and work correctly on the overwhelming majority of modern computers with no manual configuration required. Framework laptops, designed specifically to be repairable and long-lasting, treat Linux support as a primary engineering requirement rather than an afterthought. System 76 and Tuxedo computers build hardware with Linux as the foundational platform. Dell includes Ubuntu as a factory pre-installed option on its XPS developer line. The ecosystem for buying a computer that runs Linux reliably from day one is better and more accessible in 2026 than at any previous point in the platform's history. The installation process itself, which once required following a multi-step technical guide while hoping nothing went catastrophically wrong, now takes between 20 and 40 minutes on most hardware. You answer some setup questions about language, time zone, username, and password. You wait for the installer to complete. You restart. Done. No product activation key to hunt for. No mandatory Microsoft account to create. No subscription to sign up for. No artificial intelligence assistant appearing uninvited in every corner of your interface, inserting itself into tasks you are perfectly capable of handling on your own. The Linux kernel itself continues advancing in ways that matter to real users. Recent updates have delivered CPU scheduler improvements of up to 44% on specific workloads. Linux kernel 7.0, released in April 2026, maintains the extraordinary pace of development that has defined this project, with contributions from thousands of engineers working at companies including Google, Intel, AMD, Red Hat, and Valve. The transition from the legacy X11 display system to Wayland, a change the Linux community debated for years without ever reaching a definitive commitment, has now reached the point where major distributions ship Wayland as the default configuration. Wayland delivers capabilities that desktop users expect as standard: proper HDR support, variable refresh rate handling, dramatically improved multi-monitor management. The desktop environments built on these foundations have matured to a level of polish that would genuinely surprise anyone whose last experience with Linux was even 3 or 4 years ago. The most significant and least discussed shift of all is happening in the world of artificial intelligence and cloud infrastructure. Linux does not merely power most of the world's servers, it powers virtually all of the infrastructure on which the artificial intelligence revolution is being built. Every relevant AI model, every large language model, every image generation system, every voice recognition engine, every recommendation algorithm shaping what you see, read, and buy, all of it is trained on Linux. Every major cloud platform, Amazon Web Services, Google Cloud, Microsoft Azure, the infrastructure on which the modern global economy rests, is built on Linux. All 500 of the most powerful supercomputers in the world, every single one without exception, have run Linux since 2017, maintaining 100% domination of that category that has never wavered. 90% of cloud-native developers build and deploy their applications in Linux environments. 78% of all web servers worldwide run Linux. The people building the technology that will define the next 20 years are building it on Linux, and increasingly, they are also doing their everyday personal and professional computing on Linux, choosing distributions like Ubuntu, Fedora, or Arch for their laptops and desktops at rates that no general population survey would anticipate. The Stack Overflow Developer Survey for 2025 found that 27.8% of respondents use Ubuntu for personal computing. In 2023, Linux represented 43% of operating systems used for software development globally. The engineers deciding which platforms receive support, which applications get built, and which compatibility layers receive investment are disproportionately Linux users. And the platforms that the people building software use with genuine enthusiasm attract investment, talent, and innovation in ways that platforms they merely tolerate as a necessary evil do not. This creates a compounding dynamic that market share percentages do not capture well. When the developers choose a platform, they build for it more readily, optimize for it more carefully, and advocate for it more naturally within their organizations. The platform gains depth and capability in ways that feel almost invisible from the outside until suddenly, as is happening now, the accumulated depth becomes undeniable. Here is what all of this means together, and why this particular moment in 2026 is categorically different from every previous moment when people confidently predicted that Linux was about to break through. Windows is not finished tomorrow. That needs to be said clearly and honestly. Windows still controls approximately 70% of the global desktop market. For specific professional workflows, certain engineering software, enterprise legacy applications with no Linux equivalent, and particular creative tools that have not been ported, Windows remains necessary. Claiming the imminent death of Windows would be dishonest, and this is not that story. What this story is, what the accumulated data from the first half of 2026 makes impossible to credibly deny, is that Linux has crossed a threshold of genuine danger for the established order that it has never crossed before. Not because Linux users have become louder or suddenly more numerous overnight, not because of a marketing campaign or a corporate push from a company with billions to spend, but because the platform has quietly, patiently, and relentlessly crossed a series of critical thresholds. In gaming viability through Proton, in hardware support through OEM manufacturer commitments, in government adoption through France and Germany and Switzerland, in enterprise readiness, in developer preference, and in economic logic around forced hardware upgrades, that collectively have moved it from brave alternative to the first credible choice for a growing and accelerating slice of the computing world. Current trajectories place Linux at 6% global desktop share before the end of 2026. A number that would have sounded like wishful fantasy 3 years ago now appears not just achievable but conservative, and behind that trajectory waits the second wave of pressure. Microsoft's own paid extended security update program for Windows 10 expires in October 2026, meaning another cohort of users will face the same difficult choice that drove the first wave of migration. Invest in new hardware for Windows 11, keep paying Microsoft, or try something else. More of them than ever before will discover that something else installs in 30 minutes, runs faster than what they had, costs nothing, does not demand their data, and does not apologize for the AI assistant it installed without asking in their taskbar. The users who find Linux in 2026 are not finding the Linux of the past. They are not finding a platform that demands sacrifice and technical expertise in exchange for philosophical purity. They are finding a polished, capable, genuinely fast operating system that respects the hardware they already own, the money they have already spent, and the autonomy they never should have had to fight for in the first place. 35 years of methodical, patient, community-driven improvement have accumulated an unstoppable momentum. The infrastructure of the entire digital world already chose Linux. The developers building tomorrow's technology have already chosen Linux. The governments responsible for custodying public digital infrastructure are actively choosing Linux right now, with signed mandates and real budgets behind those choices. And ordinary people who simply want a computer that works, that does not install software they never asked for, that does not demand new hardware to run an operating system they never wanted, that does not treat them as a monetizable resource, rather than a human being who deserves basic respect, are finding Linux in numbers that grow every single month. It always deserved to be found. The world is simply, finally, and perhaps irreversibly catching up to it. For 35 years, Linux waited. It built. It improved. It refused to quit, even when the industry wrote its obituary season after season. It attracted engineers who believed in something larger than market share and product cycles. It built the internet. It built the cloud. It built the AI revolution. It ran the world's most powerful computers. And through all of it, the desktop waited for its moment with the same patient determination that defined the entire project. That moment is not coming. It is not approaching on the horizon like a distant light. It is already here, in this year, in these months, in the migration mandates of government ministries, in the hardware launches of major manufacturers, and the gaming sessions of millions of players who discovered that the game they love runs beautifully on a platform they were told would never be ready. Linux is not asking for permission anymore. And for Microsoft, and for the entire technology industry, that changes absolutely everything.